friends, welcome back to the Sincerely Emma podcast. Today's episode is going to be a little bit different because instead of telling you my favorite quote or phrase, I'm going to start off with a question. The question I want to ask is this. If you either had to write your younger self a letter or your life was being turned into a movie, would you be willing to tell your younger self all of the maybe really difficult things that you will have to experience in life? Or would you hand her or him this pretty letter on this, great sheet of paper written in cursive? Or would you let a person, read a letter that looks like it's been through the ringer with, several things scratched out? Same thing goes for if we were in a movie. Would you willingly hand over the unedited version of your life? Or would you hand over something that was completely edited? I think most of us would hand over the edited version. The one that contains scenes that have been made with happy storylines in mind. For example, literally any Hallmark movie. I know that you all know what I'm talking about. The thing about life is that you can't delete any scenes from it. You can make several edits to a scene and choose the ones that you feel would best fit in your movie. But the truth is, friends, once you've shot a scene, it goes into the archives forever. Whether or not it makes it into a scene, it still happened and it is still important. A lot of scenes go into making a single movie. Even the deleted scenes are important to the movie. This is where I think that social media does not help at all. It doesn't matter what platform you go on. Whether it's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the other social media platforms. All we're used to seeing are, pretty little squares with pictures that look like they've been photoshopped beyond belief. We have a tendency to only want to post the photos that look decent. I think that people would be a lot kinder on social media if we were all willing to, pull back the curtain and let people see what really goes on. The problem is that so many people struggle with the idea of being vulnerable. I think that a lot of people are afraid to be vulnerable because they think that it's a sign of weakness. Life isn't meant to be a Hallmark movie. As much as we as people despise the idea of change, we have to be okay with learning to adapt. I feel like if you don't learn quickly that adaptation is a part of life and you kind of just have to go with the punches, I feel like that's when you have a really hard time in life. I feel like sometimes we make plans and then God literally laughs in our faces and says, "This is the way I want you to do it." And then we as people tend to respond back with, "Okay, God, I understand that this is how you wanted me to do it, but that's not how I planned." By the time our life is over, friends, we will probably have made a million edits. There will no doubt be a million things that we've scratched out of handwritten letters. As long as we remember that our journey is unique to us, that's all that matters. If you feel that your life right now isn't one that you could write a bunch of letters to your younger self, that probably just means you need to get out and experience life more. I feel like when people write letters, they often think, oh, it has to be this big, long, extravagant thing. And to me, it doesn't at all. I even sometimes will utilize the notes on my phone and just write a couple thoughts I have down. Nothing formal. It's not like I start off every letter with "Dear Emma, blah blah blah." Sometimes I'll just even write down the things that make me happy that day. I typically just put my thoughts as bullet points on my phone, not even into sentence formality. The nice thing about writing letters is that they're sacred. You don't have to share anything with anyone. They can also be a good way to keep track of progress. In 6 months, you could write a really semi-sad letter, and then in another year, you might be in a much happier place. And then you'll be able to look back at the letter you wrote yourself when things weren't going well in your life, and you'll be able to see it as a symbol of growth. I don't think that we give ourselves enough credit for starting something new. I think that most of us just want that picture perfect ending. Yet we seem to forget all the things that go into whatever we're doing. When I think back on how I started my podcast, you guys could probably easily tell that I was extremely nervous. I listened back to my first few episodes the other day and I literally cringed. I don't think it sounds like me at all. I had not a clue what I was doing. 3 months into this podcasting, I'm completely comfortable with this process. I was certainly very critical of myself at the beginning of this. I overanalyzed a lot of the things that were coming out of my mouth because I was so concerned about making sure that the things that I was sharing fit with the topic of the podcast that I was talking about. I realized that if I continued to dwell on this, you wouldn't have any episodes to listen to. Now let's go back to the question that prompted this episode to begin with, because you probably want to know what my answer would be. If I were to write a letter to my younger self, I would absolutely hand her a piece of paper with nothing fancy on it. Although I have absolutely no idea what I would name my movie, I can say with 100% certainty that I would hand over the unedited copy of it. Until next time, friends, sincerely, Emma.